Greetings, folks, and welcome to another edition of the Pilot Review Show. I am Captain Blade J52, and I am joined by some of my merry cohorts. We have the RP hologram of the hour, Artie. Then, fresh off of a flea dip on the other end of the bar there, we have our resident Wolf of Clan
Doesn't
Timber.
matter, I've got great stuff to go over.
Yes, we do. And holding a torch and finally not dead from things, we have our resident Neela of the Datan clan with us this evening.
Hello there.
Who is fresh off of a Star Wars binge watching, so expect plenty of memes.
All the memes.
Yep.
Good. Arthur's catch of the day.
But, anyway, so we do have some good stuff to get through this week for you guys and everything. One of the big ones that we do want to take a few minutes to talk about is actually our roadmap that got released, as well as some bits of the stream that they went over with it. So, Sir Timber, I know you had a few thoughts you wanted to go over with this, so we'll start with you, and I guess we'll just go down the line.
I mean, this is what I was excited about, honestly. Just because it was one thing to see the roadmap and see what they were planning. It was something completely different when the executive producer came on and started talking. I mean, just going over briefly the roadmap, you've got multiple events coming, we've got some new episodes coming. One of the first things that was teased in the images, but we can now guarantee thanks to the executive producer, around June, roughly, we're looking at the Discovery 1701. Don't know how it's going to enter the game. I mean, obviously the first thought is, unfortunately, an R&D promo or something like that. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping they come out with another way to give that out to players. Since in this show it's not the hero, and they typically don't put heroes in the C-store. But I'm hoping, since it's not a hero of Star Trek Discovery, they might. I don't know. Fingers crossed. Just hoping. But, we've got Disco Connie in here. We've got Cardenas class in April potentially getting released. I mean, we've got a T6 Ryzian Corvette. I miss the Ryzian ships. I've got a shot at a T6 variant. This is exciting. So just going over the roadmap, we had a lot of good hints at what was coming. Then I bring up my notes on what was talked about. And some of this he talked about was just on the drawing board. Some of it is he's confirmed. Some of the things on the drawing board he was talking about was the possibility of more revamping to the new Romulus story arc. They've already been redoing some of the cutscenes and the dialogue. Well, not so much the dialogue, but the cutscenes, the animation, that kind of thing. They were toying around with the idea of possibly you get through a certain amount of that story arc or the entire story arc, and they would give you a leveling T6 Romulan Warbird. So creating a tune, and once you get to a certain level, they gift you, it's going to be like a T1 or T2 when you get it, but it will level up with you all the way to tier 6, just like they've been doing with everything else. Which would, give Romulans something they don't have nowadays, which is another Romulan ship, to be perfectly honest. And then they were talking about, with that, all T6s going forward, and all past T6s will be updated to where they are all leveling starships. So we are looking at, I pick up my Odyssey class in the C-Store as I'm finishing the tutorial, and I level up with that from level 10 to level 65 and beyond. So you can fly the exact ship you want that you love at the high end. You don't have to wait for it. Once it's been updated, you start off out of the tutorial with that ship. So think about the possibilities of a promo, if you've got the promo Constitution class, the T6 Connie. Well, now you can use that as your level 1 all the way to level 6, as far as like tier 6. A tier 1, quote unquote, vengeance that levels up with you. I mean, the possibilities here are quite astounding. And one thing he flirted with very briefly is that they're possibly looking at adjusting the price of the existing tier 1 to tier 5 starships, because he realized with all T6 starships leveling ships, what it's going to do to those ships eventually. Like, why would you want to buy a tier 1 or tier 2 unless you're buying it for a console? Because you can just buy a tier 6, and that's good for the entire life of the tune, more or less. So there's even looking at lowering those prices potentially. Some of the things I've got noted on here, he confirmed that there's going to be at least one Discovery reputation system, like the Terran Task Force and Iconian. At least one, he said reputations, so potentially more than one, but at least one. He confirmed the Disco Enterprise, but he also confirmed that they're working on a Discovery D7. So the Klingons are going to have the Discovery era D7. Maybe if you've got something coming. Then we get into some of the things that even make Neela and Blade giddy. A mini-map pinging system. Now, if you're not kind of used to what that could be, it's in World of Warcraft. It's been in there for a while. You click on the mini-map, and it will have a little circle that looks like it's growing just a little bit, but it basically draws attention to the mini-map. Hey, go there. It opens up lines of communication where you don't have to type, you don't have to speak. You can click on the mini-map and almost direct where you might want people to go. Or highlight something like, hey, there's something here, we need to check out this spot right here. Which is actually really nice as a tool to have for coming soon. We're looking at dedicated EV suit slots. Instead of having to unslot your armor to go and fight the Tholians on Nukara, or do some of the missions that require EV suits, you can now keep your armor on and your EV suit is in a separate slot, so you don't affect any set bonuses that you have, any of the stats that you have. You just have an EV suit on top of that, which is, to me, a quality of life improvement. You don't have to switch out armor anymore. This one made Blade giggle in the corner. STO gifting of starships to your friends. So you've got someone like, let's say I was inviting Artie on a new account he was creating, for whatever reason he was creating it. And I wanted to gift him a starship to help him out. I could gift him a T6 Odyssey class. Buy it out of the C-store, and I give him the gift code so that he has that unlock. So now he's got a starship starting off. We can gift starships to our friends if they don't have it, at least from the C-store, from what I was getting from the reveal. I doubt they're going to allow that for Lockbox and Lobby and promo ships, which, that's a duh. Probably not going to happen. But at least for C-store, that is a huge jump, because there's still a lot of good starships in there. The biggest... Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, to be fair, with the Lockbox and promo ships, you can kind of already do that. You just have to crack it open and hand them the box. Whereas with the C-store, until now, you didn't really have that option.
But still, being able to gift someone, let's say a Gagarin, that's a pretty nice gift. Or being able to gift them the Tier 3 Perseus because it's a decent Tier 3 plus the nice console. Or, you know, a Tier 1 Constitution class. Yeah, it's Tier 1, but now they've got level-less phasers that they can use all the way up as they level up, on top of leveling starships. So it was a really good, another quality of life improvement. You can help your friends out. If they can't afford a T6 C-Store vessel that they want, either as its own entity or to get used to it so they can get the fleet variant at a discount, you can gift them that now. That was really nice to hear. The biggest thing that I had in here, and it kind of led my list that I put on my production page, is they are looking at making a fall event. So right now in fall, the quote-unquote biggest thing we have is, I believe, Hearts and Minds. It happens around Halloween and every Friday the 13th, and it's just a weekend where you're dealing with, the Vulcan clones, which, quite honestly, at this point is old and boring. I'm just going to say it. It's old and boring because I have about 15 of those clones now as duty officers. What they're talking about now, however, and he said it's in the very beginning stages, it's in planning, is they want to make a Halloween event and social zone similar to the winter event. So we're looking at something as a social zone. You can get together and hang out in this Halloween arena or map, and it's all in that theme, fall and Halloween. So more than likely you're going to be dealing with maybe pumpkin or ghost enemies. If they're molding after the winter event, instead of fighting snowman, it's pumpkin men and ghosts and goblins or zombies or something like that. To hear that was phenomenal, because that's just going to be another event that we can have where we've already got at least three events: your anniversary, your summer, and your winter, where you're getting a free starship. You've got a event store for those. Well, now we're going to have a fall event tab with fall event kit modules and whatever they're going to put out there. Hopefully, like space items, because we haven't had space items in any event store since they released endothermic induction beam or engineering BOFs and the Breen warp cores, and that was all in winter event. Those are the only space things. But to have another social zone like that based around Halloween, and they said they got their inspiration from the original series episode Catspaw. To see that they went back to something like that, they're getting references from that, and they're going to make a whole new event, which I would hope we're looking at next year. I doubt we're going to see it this year in 2019 if it's in the very beginning planning stages. But we might see it in 2020, where instead of having summer and then this huge break and then winter, you get your other mini events and everything they plan in, now we have a fall event. That's exciting. That's like icing on the cake for everything else that they've been working on here. Quite honestly, I couldn't say how many times we're all just looking at the screen, listening to them going, oh my god, really? This is coming? Oh, this is coming? And every time, like clockwork. I don't know this executive producer nearly as much as Darkblade. Darkblade's done the homework on the guy. Apparently he's been in the gaming industry for a while. He's made some good games, really good games. But so far, it looks like he was dealing with, as best as I can tell, there was a dry spell there for a few months, in the beginning of 2019 into 2018 when we get the winter event, and we've had pretty much 3-week event after 3-week event, where it's been very light on content for us players. Very light. And it looks like he's been doing that on purpose because he's building up for bigger and better things coming forward that are going to be really beneficial to players. One of the things as far as on the roadmap, they're wanting, starting in April, to start working on a system where as you do events, you can earn coupons to get C-store ships. And you could potentially save up multiple coupons for more expensive starships. So it's the first time you can just do an event in-game that's free to do, and not only are you getting a random item, like a piece of armor, or a ground shield, or a space weapon, you're going to get points towards getting a token that's going to potentially, depending on how much quote-unquote Zen you get on the coupon, it could pay for a Tier 1 or a Tier 2 starship, or it could give you a nice discount on a Tier 5 or a Tier 6. You save up enough of them if they are allowed to be stacked, and you can get free Tier 6 starships just by doing events. Not counting what you might do from saving up dilithium and converting it to Zen. Now you've got another option there if you're not good with the dilithium market, and saving that and playing the market to the best of your ability. You can just get tokens here every so often, which he was flirting on the idea of 3 events will get you a coupon, roughly, and he's going to work on the math and work to see if other things can be added to this to get the tokens more often, if it's not often enough. So for free players, people that are not going to spend hardly anything, if anything, on the game when it comes to breaking out their wallet, with this they're going to have a nice option to get your Zen Source ships that they might want, a Gagarin or an Odyssey class, or maybe the Cation Escort. They're going to have that option now. At the very least, at a discount, if not over time for free, by playing events. Just the amount of stuff he put out, and I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong on the time, 20 to 30 minutes of talking was absolutely, to me, astounding. And if all this comes to pass, there's a good bit of quality of life improvement. There's going to be a lot of stuff for players to do, a lot of things that people have wanted in the game, and I'm hoping on top of all this there's bug fixes for things, and we've had a balance pass to 1 or 2 bridge powers that need to be fixed. They're apparently working on it. It's seeming like they're on the right direction. It just seems like every so often there's going to be a dead patch we have to deal with, because they're building up for something that's going to last not just 1 month for a content release and then another dead zone, but we might have 2 months or so of a dead zone, and then you've got 6 or 7 months non-stop where they're releasing things that players are going to enjoy doing one way or another, even if it's minor things. So I was actually excited about what I was hearing. Like, all this stuff is phenomenal for players. I can even see Artie getting excited about these leveling starships just from an RP standpoint. That's all I got on this, guys. Like, I was pleasantly surprised by what all was going on with this live stream. Blade, what are your thoughts on this? I'm just going to leave it to the rest of you guys.
Well, I'm pretty sure for one that, like the rest of us, Artie needed a change of underwear after crapping his pants from the epicness of everything. But, yeah, the biggest thing for me is going to be one of the bigger things is the starships leveling with you. You figure with some of these events that they've been doing, you've got the one right now that's going to give you the ground armor. That's something that you can get for yourself. You can get for your bridge officers that will level with you until, of course, you convert it to a Mark 12 at 65. You've got the Arena of Sompek, when that rolls around, that can get you a ground shield and potentially ground weapons, depending on if you have any tokens saved. And you can claim those on other characters, so you're potentially starting out with a set of ground armor that's going to level with you, a weapon that's going to level with you, and a shield that's going to level with you. Which is a pretty big deal. That's that's pretty much all of your major ground pieces taken care of there, except for kit abilities, which you'll get with time. And now you're going to have starships that are going to level with you. So I could potentially crack open a Juggernaut from a R&D promo pack, since that's the ship I've been using quite a bit lately. Hand that to a low-level tune, and I have a starship, I have my ground build, I have pretty much everything I'm going to need at that point until I hit 65. That's going to be a huge deal for the free-to-play folks. Maybe they'll extend the free leveling tier 6 to the other factions aside from just the Romulans, and give everybody a little something. That way they'll have a good starter ship to go with that will level with them. It really depends on which way they're going to go with that. But that's going to be a big deal. Like you were saying, the earning the ships is going to be another great thing. Like we can, especially with gifting the ships. Our good buddy Spoon, he's hoping to get his fiancée into the game, get her to play, because she seemed to enjoy it from everything she's told him and from what conversations we've had. Okay, if she sees a ship that she likes, then all he has to do is go in and be like, okay, you want this ship? Here you go. She gets a good ship that she enjoys, and we can all enjoy playing the game together. There's gonna be a lot of good stuff coming down the pipes, and it's gonna be interesting to see how it all plays out. But Neela or Artie, what about you guys? What's some of the stuff that stuck out for you?
Just echoing everyone else here, the tier 6 leveling ships with you kind of thing, because I feel like it actually is going to help out the roleplay community quite well, because from many other veteran players that's been in the game for 5-6 years, even more than that, they've always had an issue coming up with their characters' backstories, because in the original leveling system, every 10 levels you switch to a new ship, and that was usually the basis of what we would figure out for where our characters were. And sometimes you would have someone that was like, I would try to stay on one ship my entire career and then move off to whatever this current posting is when I join a fleet or whatever, or jump upon dozens of ships, because that's how we worked in the leveling system. So with this, now if you have a tier 6 ship, now you can just pick whatever ship that you want your character in, stick with it, instead of having to jump from a Saber to the Akira and then so on and so forth. Now you can just want to be in the Reliant class? Boom, you're in the Reliant class. Done. So I feel like it will streamline assisting players with reference to what their characters' backstories could be. But no, for actual in-game mechanics, I'm quite excited for it, because now I can actually run around with, like Timber was mentioning, an Odyssey at level 10.
Well, for me, I think everyone is missing is with the leveling starships. That's gonna make it so people can work on a build and work on weapons at a low level instead of have to wait till 65. They can work on putting stuff together as they go.
I can see that. Now we have to upgrade the budget build to what level are you?
And the other thing is the coupons. Those will be nice.
Oh yeah.
Because if they do it the same way that Neverwinter does it, it will be a very good thing.
Absolutely.
Yep.
There's like some coupons in Neverwinter, it's like 20% off of a costume, 20% off a companion, or enchantment stuff.
Yeah, definitely, I think some good stuff coming with all this, which seems like we're all pretty much in agreement. There's different stuff each of us, I think, are looking forward to a little bit more than, maybe some of the others. Like, I'm looking forward to the leveling starships, even though I have a ton of tunes already. But, yeah, like I say, if you guys didn't have a chance to check out that stream, I'm going to highly advise you guys go back, watch that live stream of theirs, since they've got the recording up now. Go check that out. There's quite a bit of stuff packed in there that they were talking about doing. We went over in this little bit of time just some of the main things that we noticed, some of the main things that we could. There's probably a lot more that's going to be revealed as far as the information goes as we get closer to some of these things. Probably going to be a bit more refined, but anyways, we'll have this in our notes for you guys so y'all can check this out. But coming up next, we actually have our minor little bits of patch note for consoles.
There's a patch note?
But
it's single. Well,
there's technically two of them. But, yeah, really there's two of them. That's really it. Slight extension to the anniversary event, and resolved an issue with the character creator slowing down.
Boom.
Pretty much it. Yeah. But we do have our PC patch notes for the 28th. Now there is I would say, fairly decent amount of patch notes here. We're not going to read through all of them because that would take quite a while to go through everything, but there are a couple of big ones in here that I did kind of want to touch base on. There's the new Marks Turn In, the changes to Hive, and also the changes to Chemosite. Now, for the Marks Turn In, I'll take that, and then I'll have Timber explain the changes to Chemosite, since he's good with the technical explanations. But basically for the Marks Turn In, as if you've played with the Reputations a good bit, if you've worked on them for a while, you'll remember that we used to have projects that we would do in the upgrades area. We could trade in, say, 50 marks and get some dill, or trade in a couple of elite marks and get some dill, and you had to do that multiple times to get your dilithium, and it was a bit more tedious than what it needed to be. And essentially what they did is, I'll actually show this in game. Let me see, I've got, okay, like say for my Omega rep, you can see here when I click on the upgrades, those other projects are no longer there. I can go in and I can still trade in some marks and get an elite mark for neural processor if I wanted to. But now we have this button for trade in marks, and it's basically on a slider. Like I can trade in elite marks for 1,000 dill. I could trade in marks for 500 dill. So say I wanted to do 4 turn-ins, and boom, there's my 2,000 dill right there. It's that much easier to get your dilithium and stuff now. Apparently something made us all stand up in game.
It's the turn-in marks. It does that.
Yeah, most of the menus are doing that now.
I did not know that, actually. So, potential slight glitch there. But as far as the mark turn-in goes, one thing that they did add, which to me I'm kind of a little leery about, and I think is a slightly bad call, is it's accessible from the Reputation UI once you reach Tier 5 in that rep. So people that had, say, only Tier 4 in, like, the Delta are now unable to convert marks to dilithium until they hit Tier 5. So that is kind of a downside there. But there's also the slight updates to the Hive Onslaught. It adjusted the spawn points of the board groupings to give them enough space at the start. So hopefully you're not aggroing the entire map in one go.
But that's where the fun begins.
Well, for us, yes, but I can see why some other people would be a little leery of that. Added a mini contact that warns players when the board queen activates her feedback pulse, which I would actually consider that sort of a quality of life improvement, because that it can be hard sometimes, depending on the rig, depending on the experience level of the player, to recognize when that's actually active. Heck, I know it's caught some of us in here a few times, just from not paying attention, or she engages it right whenever we happen to hit an alpha strike, and then it's like, oh crap, we're dying. But the one I did want to touch base on, and I'm going to get Timber to explain this a little bit, is the Chemosite-laced weaponry changes. Now, the tooltip says, or the patch note says it's been rebuilt to resolve a few issues, such as causing the tooltip to scale exponentially with or damage buffs, and it could or resolved an issue that could cause it to apply beneficial abilities such as the Piezo Polaron proc to foes. So we might see a slight change to the Piezo Polaron ability coming up if it becomes an issue because of this rebuild. But what are you seeing out of Chemocyte now, Timber, with these changes?
Well, honestly, and I'm not the only one seeing this, as a matter of fact, Bordicus has started to respond to this on Twitter. And I've been talking off and on with AD Games, Augmented Dictator Gaming on YouTube, and a few others. The change to Chemocyte has been essentially from testing a 75 to 90% nerf. And we don't think it's intentional because Bordicus is wanting numbers on how drastically it's changed to rebalance it again because it's not been intended. But the average numbers that people are seeing now, including myself, if Chemocyte was doing about 8 to 9k on average for your damage output, it's now only doing 300. So you've lost about, I don't know, 7.5 to 8k DPS out of the ability. Point where it's, and this is, a rough feeling on this, it's about on par with maybe distributed targeting 1 or 2 as far as how much damage it's doing. You're looking at it, it's down to where it's useful in the current fashion. It's useful for the extra debuff it puts on the targets. But the damage has been significantly reduced, and from Bordicus talking to players on Twitter, it was not intended to be that much. It was just supposed to be a minor change where it would still be effective. So I would not get rid of your copies of Chemocyte or try to replace them or anything. Just if you have any parses before this change on Thursday, take a second parse, see how much of a difference it is, try to get a good rough average, and send those in before and after Bordicus on Twitter, or see if you can email them directly to Cryptic, however you want to send them in. But Bordicus does want those as far as seeing it, because it has been balanced in an absolutely negative way, and he wants to fix that for the players. He doesn't want to give them another power that is, nerfed into oblivion and nobody wants it. He wants to fix it where it's still useful. But that's where it's kind of at now, is it was kind of an oopsie. That it was meant to probably be maybe probably would have been overall like a 10% reduction is what they were planning on. Maybe a 10-15% reduction of what it could do. If it was doing 10k in your build, it was going to probably do about 8k, 8.5k afterwards. So it would still be useful, and I think they did the slider a little too much to one side. So just keep that in mind, save parses, try to send in before and after, and let's get that fixed.
Yeah, definitely send that in, whatnot for him. Like I say, I wanted him to touch base on it so he can explain a little bit behind the scenes as to what's going on and everything. But yeah, so some of the rest of you guys, is there anything in particular that stuck out to you folks?
So the first one is the cooldown to the following combat companions, these ground companion devices that you can drop out, have been reduced from 5 minutes to 2 minutes. So now you can just drop those guys off more often. So this would be the bioengineer, the little Voth dinosaur, the Jackal Mastiff, the Leashed Mikado, Polytritic Acid Horda, the Wartarg, the Tardigrade, the Lithium Crusted Horda, the Lithium Crystal Horda, and the Holographic Combat Drone. So you're gonna have all these little guys now helping out a little bit more often than had before. In space, now you also have a number of your space distress calls reduced from 15 minutes to 5 minutes. This would be your Herc your Herc button, your Nimbus pirate button, your Delta your pilot ship button, and your various Romulan distress calls that you get from the Romulan rep. I think. But yeah, now that's 5 minutes. Now they actually feel a little bit more useful, and I don't have to pick and choose between that or fleet support when I'm at low health. Like, yeah, I can bring in a fleet support, but all those and fleet support plus the stress beacons are all on the same cooldown. So now I don't really have to fight for it.
Yep. And I gotta say, the big elephant in the room. Directed energy modulation now additionally grants a buff to weapon power, weapon armor penetration while active.
Yes, it did.
Interesting.
That's all I got.
But
Yeah,
well, short,
pretty
sweet,
much
to the point.
for anybody that uses that, it's now giving, on top of its shield pin, it's giving +5, +7.5, or +10 armor pin. So pretty much if you're used to using rank 3 directed energy modulation, it's giving +10 armor pin and +10% shield pin. Well, that +10 armor pin is equivalent to pin mods that you would see on crafted weaponry. And that's for 30 seconds. So, to have for 30 seconds a pin mod on your weapons along with shield penetration on heavily shielded and armored targets, that's a nice quality of life improvement on that power.
Absolutely. No. It may make some people want to use it now. Or use it more, I should say. Because it's definitely not been one that's been too popular, at least in my personal opinion.
Well, it hasn't been too popular since the, Season 13 debacle, when we went to competitive war games and there was a lot of changes to balance.
Yeah.
That was when this particular power pretty much got thrown to the wayside by how drastically it changed as a power. So, to me, this upgrade will change its usefulness a lot.
Yeah, definitely some good stuff this week as far as our patch notes. I'm sure we'll see a lot more interesting ones as some of these new features that we were talking about in the roadmap actually get implemented. But coming to our fun event is one that we all just about fell out of our seat over when they first announced it, and we actually saw what the reward was. Is our first Contact Day event. Now, our first Contact Day is whenever the Vulcans and humans first met on Earth. This occurred on April 5th in the Star Trek timeline. So, from April the 4th until April the 11th on PC, and April the 11th to April 18th on consoles, we'll be able to visit Montana, the site of Cochrane's first human warp ship flight, the Phoenix, and be able to create our own replica Phoenix. Now, some of the things that you can get from this will be, you get a Captain Specialization Point, the Launch Toy Rocket, and the Hollow Emitter once you complete the event. And the piece de resistance is the Replica Tommy Gun. So, I know these guys have a lot of thoughts about this, so I'm going to let them go first on this. So, what's some of your guys' thoughts on this?
How about this? Circa Picard, first contact. Yeah, that's to have another kinetic weapon, and it's one that honestly I think we've all been kind of wanting to see in the game. To see a full auto rifle of some kind, and now it's one that was directly seen being used by Picard.
Dixon Hill.
Yeah. Taking to the nose gun like that. Mm-hmm. That is awesome to see. Honestly, it's just to see how they do the firing mode. for this, and I'm kind of hoping the secondary fire is just about 10 seconds of spraying bullets everywhere, which would be really nice to see. But just to have this in the game, it's a nice third option on top of your ERs and your Zephyr Cochrane shotgun. Now you've got a freaking Tommy gun. Hell yeah. Now all we need is a 6-shooter from one of the original series episodes, and we're good to go.
Now, I know I've had a friend mention this to me before because he plays around with the shotgun quite a bit. He goes, "Yeah, the shotgun you don't really have to see it reload and all that, but the Thompson has a drum mag to it. Do you like after every 5 bits of either the first primary power or the secondary power, does the drum just drop off and you see your character reload it or something? Do you have like a 5-second cooldown on everything just to reload it, or is it like an action movie where no one ever reloads and you just keep on shooting until the plot thickens?"
I'm pretty sure it's got modern day replicator technology where it replicates bullets.
That's what I told him, but no, I actually want to see the stats for this thing because because it also feels like it's going to be a good board killer. You know how we have the shotgun and the TR. So you had your sniper rifle, you had your close quarters pulse wave in essence. Now you have your rapid fire.
Yeah.
Now you've basically covered up the 3 unless we get a minigun on here, like a legit minigun on here, or someone just hands them an actual cannon to hold around. But besides that, this is, I feel like, just the tip of the iceberg. We're actually getting to some pretty cool shenanigans here, actually making ground kinetic damage type an actual thing to worry about. Because yeah, you would have your shields and all that, but imagine this. Although PvP is not exactly a big thing anymore, but imagine this going against another player. You're going in with all your armor, your shields, and all that, and get riddled with bullets because your shields don't recognize bullets.
I know.
So, yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a fun thing. But I know some of us have been sitting around bullcrapping whenever this was first announced in the TeamSpeak here, and we were discussing about all of us grabbing a Tommy gun and then grabbing the Zephyr shotgun and going into a Borg mission, and just all 5 of us unloading on the Queen.
Are you kidding me? That's happening.
Because
Yeah.
reasons.
Yes, that is happening.
Oh
We always
yes,
gotta record
yes it
and
is.
We all just gotta yell at the same time. We like surround her and be like, "Now," and just go,
Assimilate this.
The Borg will never be the same again. Yeah, pretty much. But I have to say I do like where this is going. Like you're saying, this does open up the possibility they could add even more kinetic damage types or kinetic weaponry in as far as ground combat goes in the future. You know, we've got basically a pulse wave in the form of the shotgun. We've got the sniper rifle in the form of the TR. We'll now have this in the form of the Tommy gun, which will most likely be similar to a full auto rifle. And then, like you're saying, now you really need just your pistols, and then maybe something along the lines of a high density or an actual legit minigun. So this raises the stakes as far as that, in my opinion. It's like, do you want to go with a traditional energy type weapon, or do you perhaps want to go with a kinetic type weapon? So it's going to be interesting to see if they add additional kinetic type weapons in the future.
I mean, they could probably go the complete opposite and make a full energy weapon type melee weapon.
So basically give us lightsabers.
I smell a lawsuit.
No. They're called Star Sabers. They're not the same.
Or laser swords.
Primitive technology.
Got it. Quasar sabers. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Just that slide.
Yeah, because they don't want to get sued by the Power Rangers
Yeah,
over
I know.
that or anything, you know. But anyways, I know we're definitely looking forward to this event. You guys should check that out. You guys are going to enjoy that minigun, I'm pretty sure. We get to see some previews of the mods on the weapon in-game on the in-game calendar. So the cat was kind of out of the bag on that one as to what was coming. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. But that's what we've got for our articles. Like we say, there was quite a bit of stuff going on this week that got announced. Definitely going to encourage you guys to go back and watch that live stream of theirs again, or watch it for the first time if you haven't had a chance already, because there was quite a bit jam-packed into that short amount of time. But anyways, coming up on our budget build this evening, we actually wanted to do something a little bit different to mix it up. This is something that we hadn't touched base on in a while, and that is a budget shuttle build. Now, we usually do a lot, I would actually darn near exclusively, you know, your capital ships, your big ships, your full-size starships. Yet, for some people that like the shuttles, they like to putt around in those once in a while, maybe for an RP aspect, or maybe for when the shuttle events come around, whenever they do.
Every time someone's come to me about a shuttle build, it's always been, I hate the Vault. I'm like, well, use this build.
Yeah, pretty much. Or if you just hate the Vault and you want to smoke everything in there, well, you're going to need something to do that with. And the last time we actually did a shuttle build was pre-season 13. So quite a bit has changed since then. We've got some different options that we just didn't have back then. So we're using a Delta Flyer for this particular build. Most shuttles will have 2 weapons that you can utilize. And for our shuttle, for our 2 weapons, we have the Kintari mass-produced missile launcher. Now this is going to be good because you can basically rapid fire this really quickly. You've maybe got 1 second downtime, if that. Just a basic global cooldown between shots before you can crack it off again. And then we also have our Polaron Omni turret. This is from the Morphogenic set. Then for our shields, our engines, deflector, and warp core, we went with the Jem'Hadar set for this. This is going to be the old Jem'Hadar set, so you've got a Polaron boost by having the 2-piece equipped, and then you get the anti-proton sweep, which is very nice in a shuttle in my personal opinion. I've seen that knock down actually quite a few fighters, or at the very least illuminate them so I can see where the heck they are. But it's also going to give a good bit of defensibility to the shuttle, since you don't have the mastery that a normal starship would have. You're not going to have some of the built-in resistances, so you got to make up for them a little bit somewhere. And in this case, our set is actually going to help with that. Since the Jem'Hadar set does not come with a warp core, we have to source one, and we're using our temporal phase overcharged core here, because in our opinion, it is extremely, extremely hard to beat this core on the budget level, because of the capacitor that it gives, which is basically a temporal negotiator effect that cuts your bridge officer cooldowns in half for the duration it's active. As far as device slots, you do get one of them on a shuttle. We usually like to think of your devices as personal preference. However, one we do like to recommend to people is the subspace field modulator, which will basically give you a free neutronium alloy armor worth of resistances while it's active, as well as a substantial benefit to your defense stat. Now, it does debuff you for a minus 400 protonic damage resist rating, which is a bit of a double-edged sword, so do keep that in mind whenever you use it. Not many foes are going to utilize that energy type, but it is worth making a note of at the very least. Now, for this particular shuttle, you get one of each console type. You get an engineering console, a science console, and a tactical console. Now, for our tactical console, we went with the morphogenic controller to round out the 2-piece for our morphogenic set. Then we went with the temporal disentanglement sweep. This is going to give us a bit of extra shield capacity, as well as a bit of shield damage resistance. It's also going to give us a bit of critical chance and critical severity based on our aux power, so potential damage boosting as well. Then for our money console, we actually went with the Theta radiation vents. Now, this is one I like to have on a shuttle. It's a nice little AoE weapon. It can slow down other fighters and apply a pretty nasty burn to them at the same time. And I've gotten a lot of use out of it. I think some of the guys here have used this on occasion as well, and it's just a very nice little AoE weapon, which is something you don't often get with a shuttle build. But that's what we have as far as our equipment goes. Now, the set bonuses for our morphogenic. This I want to touch base on really quickly for our two-piece. Pull this up in game for you folks. And apparently it's going to be a butt while I'm sitting down. But essentially, the big reason we wanted to use the two-piece is because it's going to cool down some of our tactical powers quicker. It's a 15% recharge, time reduction to thaw, overload, scatter volley, rapid fire, torp spread, torp yield, and mine alpha and mine beta. Now, the big reason this is going to benefit us on this particular shuttle, we'll go ahead into our BOF powers, is you have two BOF powers you can utilize on the shuttle here. You have a Ensign Universal seat and an Ensign Science. Now we went with our Ensign, we went with a Hazard Emitters and our Ensign Science seat. This is going to give us a bit of heal over time and debuff purging. I couldn't think of a word for a minute. But this is going to purge things like plasma fires, purge some very nasty debuffs, and give a bit of healing to the build. Then we also have our torp spread, which is actually going to benefit our Kintari missiles. This is going to let us throw a lot more of them out there than we otherwise normally would, and being able to keep this power cooled down or cool it down faster is going to enable our shuttle to throw out a lot more punishment, which can be very, very nasty having a lot of Kintari missiles coming after you in shuttle combat. But looking at our skills, everything, it's our basic skill build that we have here on the show that we've recommended for a while. Now, as far as the technical behind-the-scenes stuff, for those people that want to know why we picked the certain points that we did, we've got a video we can give you guys for that, but for everybody else that just wants to copy a build and go, this is what we have. You can see, really quickly, some of our points in Lieutenant, then Lieutenant Commander, Commander, Captain, and then of course Admiral. Now I do want to mention that the points that we have in Tactical Readiness is going to stack with our Morphogenic two-piece, which is going to cool down our torpedo spread even faster. Now for our specializations, we went with Intel Primary, Miracle Worker Secondary. This is going to let us squeak a little bit of extra damage out of the shuttle, as well as give it a little bit of extra survival at the same time. Then, getting into our traits, this is where it got interesting, because our shuttle's not a full-size starship. We kind of had to plan a little bit differently and utilize some stuff that we might not normally work with, or at least that we're not recommended too often here on the show. For our personal space traits, we have Elusive for free defensive value. It's going to make you harder to hit, which is going to be nice on a shuttle. Fleet Coordinator for free damage based on how many people are in your party, 2% minimum, up to a 10% maximum. We have Grace Under Fire, which is the career-specific trait for engineers. If you're not an engineer, but you'd like to use the build, swap in your own career-specific trait, and you're good to go. We have Nanite Repair Matrix for whenever your hull drops to a certain point. It's going to heal you a little bit. Redirected Armor Plating. Whenever you're shot from behind or the sides, you're going to get a pretty decent damage resistance buff. We have our projectile training, since our primary weapon is going to be the Kintari missiles, which is a projectile. Then we have accurate, to increase our accuracy a little bit, which always helps with the Kintari missiles, because, at least in my experience, I've noticed they tend to miss a little bit more than other weapons. We have living hull, which is going to get a little bit of extra regen and healing into the build. Since we don't really have any heals aside from hazard emitters, this is going to help keep us alive and keep us in the fight a little bit longer. Then, for an R&D crafting trait, we went with the kinetic precision, which is going to give a bit of shield pin to our projectiles and make our Kintari missiles just that much nastier. As far as our starship traits go and everything, it's a free trait and everything. We don't really have an attack pattern, but we slotted this on here anyway because maybe you've got it on your big starship. Then we have our improved predictive algorithms, which is going to give a bit of a buff to our accuracy, as well as helping our weapons hit a little harder, which is going to be nice for our Kintari missiles. Then we have the going the extra mile. It improves the effectiveness of your captain and bridge officer heals, and if we heal somebody while they're above 90% hull, we'll get a short maximum HP increase for a brief while. Then, for our space reputations, we kind of mixed it up a little bit, and this is where we picked up a bit of defensive value for the shuttle to help us stay alive, which ordinarily we wouldn't have to do, but since we don't have masteries like some of the bigger cruisers may have with built-in resistances, we have to make that up somewhere in the shuttle, otherwise we're going to go squish really quickly. Now, first off, we have our advanced target systems, which is going to be a little bit of free severity, which is always going to be nice to have with kinetic-based weaponry. We have active hull hardening, which is going to provide a extra bit of damage resistance as our health decreases in combat. We have our torpedo astrometric or astromic synergy. Good luck saying that 5 times fast. And whenever we use a torpedo bridge officer ability, that's going to cool down our science powers. So every time we smack our torpedo spread, that's going to cool down our hazard emitters that much faster. Then finally we have our aux power defensive in this case. Since we're going to have a little bit of aux power in our shuttle anyway, this is going to let us squeak some extra damage resistance as well as maximum HP and shields out of our aux power. Active reputations, we have our anti-time entanglement singularity. This is going to be a nice little AoE kick in the pants and slow to enemies, and is very, very effective in small shuttle combat. We also have our biomolecular shield generator, which on a big ship or even a shuttle can be very beneficial. You poof this little bubble up, it's going to reduce the damage your shields take by a pretty significant amount, as well as heal the shields for a little bit as well. The next thing we have is our deploy sensor interference platform. This is a nice little oh crap I'm going to die button, and it will poof up a sensor platform that will taunt enemies to itself until it's either destroyed or the time runs out, whichever of those two things happens first. Then finally we have a refracting Tetryon cascade. Now normally we would go with the quantum singularity manipulation here, but in this instance I felt it was better to give another AoE type of attack to our shuttles, since we don't typically have a lot of those types of powers or the ability to use them very quickly in a shuttle build. So we want something that if we get surrounded, if we get a lot of stuff attacking us, we can maybe smack this and hopefully nuke a few of them and take some pressure off of ourselves. Now, as far as our overall cost to the shuttle, the only thing you're out is 1.4 million EC, and that was to pick up the Theta radiation console. Otherwise, this is a purely free build. That's the only real thing you've got to worry about. But I know you do a lot of shuttle stuff. Artie, what's some of your thoughts?
So I really love the use of the Kintari missile. It is a mission reward. You don't have to use Lobby, you don't have to use Zen, you don't have to go out on an epic quest just to get it. It's literally, you do the mission, boom, you got it. The cool thing with it is that depending on what bridge officer power you use, in this case you have, one second, up, you have a torpedo spread. It works perfectly because you have, you have what the tropes would be called the Macross Missile Massacre. Just fire missiles everywhere until the thing dies. On the other hand, if you use the high yield, you can drop a nuclear missile on someone's behind. it does just as much damage. But it's really nice to have the torpedo spread for it because just the visual. I don't know why, but for actual going with the actual build for it, it's very simple. Nothing too extravagant about it. It works very well for what you're looking at here. So there's nothing too dramatic for it. It's easy to grab and all that, especially if you need it. But like if you're going to need this for Vault, you're going to have to skip Vault and move on to get the the Dominions, the Jem'Hadar gear for it, or just setting it all off. This is perfect for what it is. Works. It's doable. It's very durable from doing this because this is a very similar build to what I have. It just works. It just works.
Yeah. Any thoughts from the rest of you screwballs? I know y'all don't do as much shuttle combat, but I'm just curious as to what
It
you
works.
guys think. Well, you heard it here, folks. Short, simple, and to the point. Now, as far as the Bugs Corner goes this week, I do have one that I'm hoping you guys can actually help with. Now, I've actually been getting reports of some folks that have had some issues reclaiming the Guerrilla Combat Armor. Now, some folks have the issue, some folks don't, so we're not entirely sure as to what a potential cause might be. Is it strictly user error? Is it a bug? Is there something else going on? Now, as far as this particular armor goes, now, one thing I have noticed for people that are experiencing the issue is if you equip the armor for just a brief moment on your character that initially unlocked it, then that should trigger the system to let you claim it on other characters. Now, in my case, I actually had to convert it to a Mark 12 and then equip it first, but after that it worked just fine. Now, this is one of the items that behaves similarly to the Kobali Core. And this particular item, whenever you claim it, you actually have to have it equipped to a bridge officer before you can claim a duplicate, or you have to get rid of it. You can't have this equipped on your captain and then claim a duplicate, at least that I've seen so far. So if you want to claim duplicates for your bridge officers, equip it on a buff, and then it'll show up in your list again. And just keep going until you have as many copies as you want. But, yeah. Anybody have any final thoughts on anything this week?
When I open up many of the store tabs, like the change marks to the lithium and whatnot, am I supposed to be quitting the emotes that I do? Like, as you can saw, you stood up after you closed out the marks to the lithium thing.
My guess would be knowing that's probably
cool.
a bug.
I reported a bug.
Oh, Lord. Now, how sad is it when Artie catches me slipping? Because he doesn't go out and look for these things like or at least as much as some of the rest of us do.
I stumble upon them and I know too many people. That's usually how it works.
Yeah, not too different from how I find them, so I can't really say much about that. But, joking and ball busting aside, like I say, that's what we've got for you guys this week. There was some pretty significant stuff as far as the roadmap. As new information comes out, as the developers release it, we'll be sure to pass it along to you guys if there's anything we hear first, and we're allowed to talk about it. But, like I say, hopefully we'll see a fix to the Kima side issues pretty soon. Whatnot, do send Borticas some of those parses if you have them. You know, the devs don't like stuff like that happening any more than any of the rest of us do. You know, they want people to have fun, they want people to enjoy powers and everything, but they want them to be balanced at the same time. And in this case, like Timber was saying, it seems like maybe the slider just got clicked over a little bit too far to one side. Which, stuff like that happens once in a while. And everything. Coding can be a real pain in the rear end. But, anyways, folks, that's what we've got for a show this week. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. And on our way out the door, shout out to our good friends over at the Temporal Armada. Very cool bunch of people. Be sure to check out their program as well. Also, a shout out to our other good friends over at the Kurtang Pirate Radio. The party is there. And they always have a very good variety of music playing. Different stuff all the time. So, you never know what you're going to get. But, if you have any requests for the budget build corner, let us know. We do take requests. And whether that be a full-size starship or even a shuttle. You know, just let us know, hey, this is the budget level I've got. This is the ship I'm looking for. You know, I want to be a science person and a space wizard, or I want to be a tank, or I want to be a damage dealer, or I want to be somewhere in the middle of the spectrum, and we'll hook you up with a build. If you think that your gear and your setup are in order, and it's your piloting that needs a little bit of work, you'll get a brief little video clip of your piloting put together and send that to us. We'll offer some tips and tricks on how to improve, and maybe even run a few missions with you if need be. But if you have any bugs, feel free to let us know. We do, you know, we pass those straight on to the devs. They don't like bugs any more than you or I do, and we all want to see them get fixed. If you have any requests for the RP Corner, feel free to let Artie know. He does take requests for that. Maybe it's just a specific type of event you're not really sure how to handle, or a specific type of character, and you want a little bit of advice, and he may just talk about your topic on air. For now, folks, this is the Pilot Review Show, reminding you to have your tribbles spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.